everyone. Okay, I think we're ready. Welcome. How's it going? Hey, Marlon.
Going well. How are you
Cool.
doing?
Good. Okay, everyone. Welcome to the Assembly Studio Buildathon. Really excited to have you here. I'm Vivian. I'm the product marketing lead at Assembly. And in just a few minutes, Marlon and I are going to show everyone some exciting new features coming to Assembly this week. For those of you who are joining and tuning in after, I would like to share some stats that we've had. So for the past few months, we've been in early access with a group of our customers, professional service firms who've been modernizing and consolidating their tech stacks with Assembly. And we've had more than 100 different customers building apps for their business with Assembly Studio. More than 200 apps were built, so at least two per customer, and 100 that are live and deployed being used by internal teams and customers right now. I'm really excited because we're going to be showing you some of these apps today if you stick around. I would encourage you to stick around because we're also going to be raffling off prizes to people who are showing up live and speaking in the chat. So encourage you to leave comments in the chat that will affect my ability to raffle you prizes. I also just want to point out that most of the tools that people have been building are things that they built while still running their businesses, which I feel like even just a year ago, we'd say like none of us would have had the time for. So for this stream, I'm really excited. Please feel free to jump in the chat, ask questions as you go. There will be time for Marlon to answer questions after the demo. And just as a reminder, Assembly Studio will be live to everyone on Wednesday. So we'd love your support on that day. I'm going to put Marlon's Twitter handle and LinkedIn in this chat so you can all see. But after that, I'm going to hand it to Marlon.
Awesome. Thank you, Vivian. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, doing okay.
Okay, wonderful. So first of all, thank you all for joining. An extra special thank you to the folks in the beta. We've been doing this for just over 2 months now, and the feedback has been awesome. I think the app builder has come a long way, and we're really excited to roll it out to our whole community. So before I jump into the screen share, I know some of y'all have been building on Assembly for a very long time, in some cases a few years. And I just wanted to give a bit of background on how we got started and how things have shifted, especially very recently. So a couple of years ago, the big idea was to give professional service firms a true all-in-one suite to run and manage their business. And so we started off with a client portal and CRM. And over time, we built out these apps, starting with the Messages app, then the Files app, then the Contracts app, the Tasks app. The list sort of went on as we heard more and more requests from everybody. And then what happened earlier this year was really exciting, and it was seeing what's possible now with these AI app builders. And so we looked at tools like Claude Code and Lovable and Base 44, and we were just amazed at how easy it's become to build custom software. And for us, serving professional service firms, we felt that we had to build something for this audience we knew and understood really well. So that's kind of why we're here today. We are going to show off our app builder, but I think high level, it's really meaningful for people running businesses, because I think before, one option was to pay a lot of money and build custom software, and then the other option was to use off-the-shelf tools. And I think the problem with off-the-shelf tools is that it never quite works. You submit a feature request and it never gets kind of met. And I think finally there's a solution to both of those problems. So I'm going to walk you through some of the new things we have today in this product demo, which I think should be visible to everybody now. Perfect. And I will walk you through some of the new things in a second here. So the first thing I'd love to show you is how to build a new app from scratch. So on this new Add App page, we have both this free text input box as well as some templates. And in this free text input box, you can describe an app you want to add to your workspace. And here you can build both internal apps as well as client-facing apps. And so I'm just going to put in a prompt here. Let me zoom in a little bit that says, built a client onboarding wizard that collects individual details, business details, and services needed in a 3-step flow. Now let's also say that clients should see a summary before submitting. And then I'll also add something that's a little bit vague just to see how our new app builder handles the request. I'm going to say flag high-risk clients to me. All right, now let's submit that. Now there's actually a few agents working in the background here. And the first thing we're trying to do is understand um, what how this app should be built in a way that makes sense in the assembly ecosystem and specifically for professional service firms. And so here we're greeted with our Q&A agent. Depending on the request, you might get a few questions if things are unclear. And this first one here is about whether onboarding submissions should be tied to the company or individual contact. Now that's a concept directly from the Assembly CRM. So I'm going to say contact specific. And then next up, there's this question on actually defining what it means to be high risk for a client. Here, I'm just going to say, ignore that. Don't worry about risk scores, just to keep this simple. Let's submit that. And now, as the next step, we're going to see a requirements document. This is very much akin to what maybe a product manager would produce at a tech company. And so the idea here is that you get this, you read this, maybe you share this with someone at your firm, and you confirm that the core workflows are correct. And so either I can revise this plan by chatting with the AI, or I can improve it. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and approve the request. So these builds do take some time. They typically take between 20 and 30 minutes. And so while this is building, we're going to check out some other stuff. All right, let's go back to the Add App page. And even for folks that were in the beta, this part is new. So under this input box where you can build custom apps from scratch, we have this new app template section. There's a few we recommend to you that we think are particularly good fit based on your profile, but you can also click on Browse All Apps in the bottom. Now here, the exciting news is that when we introduce this to everybody on Wednesday, we're going to have 25 new apps that we're launching. These have all been built by our team, and so they're extremely well tested. Again, they're secure, they're made for professional service firms, and we think you'll love many of them. A few that have been very popular requests is a better workflow for client support requests. There is a new client onboarding wizard you can customize with conditional form logic. There's an events and RSVPs app, and the list goes on. This document collector, I think, is really great for accounting firms. All right, so these are the templates. I've actually installed a few templates before this. So I'm going to go to the time tracker. This is a request we've heard quite a bit. And essentially, it lets you track and log time entries, and it's integrated with the Assembly CRM. So here, I can start a timer, associate it with a client, select a category, add any optional notes, and kick this off. And that's one way to do it. I can also stop this and instead add a manual time entry like this. And that's also going to work in the way you'd expect. Now, the really exciting thing about this new generation of software is that not only do you have these templates you can start off with, but you actually have the ability to remix any apps. And so when you click on an app in the top left, like here, you can say, switch to Builder, and you can quite literally request changes to how this app works. So if you want any new features in your time tracker, you can create those changes just by talking with their AI model. You can also duplicate an app. This is helpful if maybe you have an app you really like, and then you want to build off of it as a branch. So this is something that is supported with all of our new generation of apps. Let's also look at an app that is client-facing. And so for that, I've got a few here: project tracker, approvals, and document collector. I'm going to go and select approvals. All right, so let's kick this off and click on New Approval Set. I'm going to say logo redesign. I will assign this to John. And I'm going to add a few documents for my computer. And I'm going to send this to the contact. All right, so two of these brand assets, one a banner, one a logo, both sent to the client. All right, so at this point, client gets an email notification and authenticates into the client experience. I've got that client experience open. So here, I've got a notification under approvals. I'm going to click on it. And I can see this request, and it says, your decision needed. All right, so here we've got this round of requests. I can select the designs I'm happy with. I can also request changes. So let me say, I'd like to go with a greener color scheme. And now if I go back to the internal experience, I can see that changes have been requested here, and I can see that comment in the bottom as well. All of these apps, as you'd expect, are integrated with the notification center. And so here we have a fitting notification so that all of these requests are in one place. So that's the approvals app. And honestly, it is one of many apps that is quite comprehensive. Each of these new ones took maybe 10 to 15 hours to build. And I think that should give you a sense of just how complex of software you can build in a relatively short time period. All right, so at this time, let's go to our app from before that we started building and see how it's doing. And it is still going. So as mentioned, it can take some time, but I just wanted to explain how this works. So once you approve the plan, the first thing that happens is that one of our AI models comes up with the development plan, which is essentially the sequence of steps that needs to be executed to build a particular app. And so those you can see one after another here, and you can actually click into them to see exactly what is happening. That first step of coming up with the full list is complete. That's why this says phase 2 of 2. And now the actual implementation is happening. So here we are currently on the second of 12 steps. And once this is done, this app is going to be ready to use. Just before this call, I tried to build essentially the same app. So let's go there because I know it's further along. Now, when an app finishes building, you will see something like this. And on the right side, you have your preview area. And so here I can preview both the internal experience, and I can also experience the client side. And so for that, I can select a particular client. And I can actually start testing both sides of the application. Now, if I want any changes, I can just mention them in the builder chat. Once I'm happy with the app, I can click this publish button in the top right. And here I can edit both the icon and name. And I can also change who it's visible if it's a client-facing app. And so, for example, if you have 2 tiers of customers, you can use custom visibility rules to change who sees something. Now, once this all looks good, you can click publish. And in about 10 seconds or so, this app is going to be live for your team as well as your clients to use. Um, so that's how app building works. That's how modifying existing apps work. And earlier, I showed you how the templates work as well. Um, that's the end of my demo. I'll turn it back to you, Vivian. I heard maybe there's some questions.
One second, I'm going to join in on myself. Okay, hold on. Um, 1 second, I need to unhide myself. Cool, I'm back. All right, thanks.
Mhm.
I do see some questions in the chat. I'll start with the one big one that I feel like is helpful from a big picture level. I think we know there's a lot of app builders out there. There's been a lot of popularity in the kind of AI no code space for a while. Can you give me a sense of like if you were to tell somebody what Assembly Studio is particularly good for and it's great at compared to these other app builders, what would you say is like the key thing?
Yeah, it's a good question. Even on our team, we use Claude and Claude Code ourselves. We've tried products like Lovable and Base 44, and I think those products, and in fact, other products in the future, will all make really great app builders. Um, I think the part that makes us different is that we make it much easier to build apps that work with your clients, and we handle more things behind the scenes for you. So, if you think of yourself, or if you put yourself in the position of say, a marketing agency or accounting firm, and you build a client-facing application, with a lot of the other tools, you end up with a link for your application, but then you need to figure out how to deploy it. You need to figure out how to host it. Also, what if you want the client experience to have more than just one app? What if you also want clients to have messaging and payments and those types of things? And so I think we just make it much easier to actually get the app live and in use by both your team and your clients.
Right. There was one question in the chat about how the build steps work and generally, like maybe a little bit of behind the scenes of how you would expect the builder to work. Like, is it doing everything in parallel? Is it just doing things one by one?
Yeah, so I think of it as a three-step workflow. So that first step is the product agent coming up with the requirements and making sure that what the user wants is aligned with what the AI thinks the user wants. And then after that, yes, there is this like build the engineering plan step, and then there's the actual implementation step, and they happen sequentially. Um, this is getting a little bit into the technical details, but we actually early on tried to take an approach where we just have one model that does the planning and implementation. But we found that the apps that are created with this two-step workflow, they just end up being uh, much more bug-free and much more closely mapped to the user's requirements. And so that's how it works. During that second step, the build implementation phase, it is true that multiple steps can be executed in parallel, and that's something we do just so that the whole process doesn't take as long as it otherwise would.
Great, thanks. I have a question from a user in chat about never attempting to modify the designs of their apps. I think this is Brandon from the early access group. When building, can you adjust the colors and designs of apps? It sounds like most people who've been building early access kind of accept the builder for what they give you, but it gives you one thing. How would we say the builder does with adjusting design elements?
Yeah, you can absolutely customize everything. So in your assembly workspace, you have a customization page where you upload your brand assets, your colors, your typography, and those we do use automatically in the client experience. In terms of how the UI components look by default, we try to make it work nicely with the assembly design language. But you can override it with prompts. So if you want to make changes to components, typography, layouts, all of that is possible. You just talk to the builder chat to request those changes.
I will say, Brandon, for your question, as someone who's been playing around with the Assembly Studio for a while, I have tried to get it to get pretty off brand, and there are limits. When I've asked it to do something very insane and in dark mode, it will say something along the lines of like, that's not going to work great with your brand, or that's not going to work well with the design system. I can do this, that, or the other. So I've hit its limit on pushback when it comes to going really wild and off script. But I think that there are some guardrails, but in general, yes, you can customize the design. Okay, another question from Stephen from Avium. I know Assembly itself already has MCP support, but any plans to expand that support to the Builder and Assembly Studio? That's a great question. Thanks, Stephen.
It's a great question. We don't have it at launch time on Wednesday, but it is very high up on our list as a follow up. So I don't want to overpromise, but I bet less than a couple of weeks after we go live, we'll have MCP support in the builder.
Awesome. Thank you so much for everyone's questions. I had another question for you, Marlon, that's kind of following up on our original one where we talked about, what Assembly Studio is good for. I think it is helpful, like you said, to talk about the limitations of the builder when it comes to our design choices and being opinionated.
Mhm.
So do you want to talk a little bit about like what at launch you're going to see a lot of interesting things that we've built? What exactly have we found that the builder is not good for, and why is it not good for those things?
Yeah. So I think a lot of the other app builders they market and position as being great tools for everything. I think it is true you can use them for anything. For us, we try to focus a lot more, especially when it comes to security. And so I would say anytime you're building something public facing, like a marketing website or some kind of application that doesn't require authentication, you would not want to use assembly for that. In fact, the way apps are built is in a way where we add a security and authentication layer on the app by default. And so if you ever try to open an assembly app, uh, whether it's the internal or client experience, just in like a browser window outside of the assembly container, that is not going to load. And that was done for security reasons. So yeah, the main answer is anything that's public facing. Um, and then at least at this time, also anything that's like super GPU intensive, like if you're trying to build a video streaming tool or something like that, we are not yet a good fit for that either.
Great. Well, I think that's helpful for everyone to know. I also have another question from Brandon about after launch. Are we, Assembly, planning to continually launch new apps, or are we just letting everyone take it from there? Maybe it's helpful to understand sort of what we think about the future of the apps in our platform, the ones that we've built, the templates that are now remixable, and the builder itself.
Yes, so we have a team of 4 people now focused on app building, and we expect them to continue pushing and building out apps. At launch time, I think most of the apps we are rolling out, they are um, sort of useful across industries. But one thing we're pretty excited about is a lot more specialized apps for different verticals. In the long run, we're also really interested in finding a way for people in our audience and community to build apps and to then list them in the marketplace. Because I think that's how you really kind of get to this long tail of ideas across lots of industries. And for that, I think the details still have to be figured out. I think there'll be some kind of rev share, but that is the long term vision that there's some kind of ecosystem that's not just our team building, but that includes others as well.
Yeah. I would say yes. At launch, also, just to be clear, I there is not a current way for your apps to be shared, and a lot of the apps that people have been building are specialized to their industries. So that's not something we planned for at launch because we didn't necessarily hear that was something people were interested in. But I think we have heard from some of you that you're like, I built this app and I think it's really cool and I would like to share it, which may be a good transition to the next section. If there are any further questions, let me know. We can also answer them in follow-ups. I will send out a follow-up to anyone who was part of the Buildathon portal. So, but for now, I think I'd love to take over and share some of the apps that you've built. I'm really excited by a lot of these. They're super great. Thanks, Marlon. I'll get you on back again in a little bit, but I'm going to take over from here. So here we go. All right. So I promised everybody that we would do some prize giveaways, and I would really appreciate the people who submitted their apps for this build-a-thon. I think it's really cool to see what Marlon showed, but I think it's also more amazing to see what you guys have actually done in the time that we gave this out in early access. And I think we started early access in, I want to say like June. So it's only been a few months, and many of you have done multiple builds. And so I really want to highlight some of the ones that were sent in this past week. Okay, I'm not gonna like put. I have one honorable mention of an app, and this one goes to Lauren Cope from Cope and Associates in the UK. They're a UK-based accounting firm. Their app was called Focus Value. Short version of this is that it is a prototype that they're working on, not yet live to clients, but it's aimed at service-based businesses who often still do much of the delivery themselves, and it's focused on quantifying how interruptions stop their billable work. So I want to demo a little bit of this on behalf of Lauren, who's here. So if you can see in this app, uh, they're basically clients put in a scope of work, or they basically put in some things into a calculator. They put in a monthly profit, their average working hours, and how often they theoretically get interrupted in a day. And the app draws from a research about the 23-minute recovery window, which is essentially, the idea that it's going to cost you a little bit of time to refocus yourself. And it shows how much lost value you're getting. So it's sort of set to be a little jarring. The point isn't that like you're supposed to work more, it's that, you have to protect your time, and Lauren's company will help you sort of understand that. So it's a really neat tool that I think that the team has built out. And I think it's a great little demo of something that you can do in assembly. Just give yourself and give your clients something small to look at, interactive, branded in the portal for them. So really great job, Lauren. And I'll send you some follow-up details. I have your information on what you're winning. Now I have 3 winners that I'd like to share the grand prizes of, and the first and third place is, and I'm glad you're in the chat, Brandon, because it's your fractional video project tracker. Congratulations. I'll give you a little bit about your company. Fractional Video Agency serves clients who have ongoing video needs, including editing, motion graphics, creative strategy for subscription. I kind of love that you guys are productizing your services. I think it's great that you guys give this kind of all-in-one, like onboard once, submit and prioritize project requests. I appreciate you also submitted a video. So I'm actually going to play your video, and hopefully everyone can let me know about the audio and make sure that you can hear it. But I'm glad you sent something in. I'm going to let you demo your own app.
We created an app called the Video Tracker, which is a lot like the Tasks app, except it allows more transparency and more information, more detail that makes sense for video editing, which is what we do. We do fractional video editing, and they get about 2 hours a day of a video editor's time. So they also need to be able to have the ability to kind of control what we're working on a little bit more, not just see things. So we wanted to build this app. It was pretty important to us. This is the user side. They can request a video, title, a brief. We can add stuff to this as we go, just based on common things that people are asking for. So they would submit a request, and then that would come to us. And here, the notifications work for it. All the requests go right to the bottom. And then from there, we can move things to in progress, which is us working on it. It says that it's our turn. And then we can move to in review, which would be the client's turn. So that will notify them that it needs their input. So when they go in here, they're going to be able to see all the information. This is the same thing that we see on our end, but also they now have a place for versioning. So every version goes right into here. They can watch it directly on frame. They just stack. On our end, we can delete them and clean them up. So there's just one version at all times. Then there's a final assets area. There's a discussion area. They can see a time summary to see how much time has been logged on each project, which is really important. And then the other thing that we wanted to make sure they had was control over priority. So if they want to move this to the top, which we're always pulling from the top, they can control completely what we're working on next. So that is basically the user side. Our side, it just has a little bit more detail. We can assign people to it, which they see that. We can allocate how much time we're going to allow someone to work. We can start a timer or add manual time in here, and each project gets their own logged time, which we can see all the time, which I'll show in a second. We also have an internal notes in here that's attached to each project. So it's not just a general one, it goes along with each project, so it's specific to what we're working on. And yeah, we move stuff through in here. We also have, there's a board, a list, and then the time report, which would be all the videos in here. The client sees something pretty similar, but they can see their time report and see, for the last week, the day, the month, what people have been working on. So this is what we've been building, and we're still adding to it and kind of getting more features in here and attaching it to other parts of our portal. But that's what we've built, and it's been working so far as we test.
All right. Congrats, Brandon. That was a really great app, and I'm really glad that you were able to demo it. I think it's a wonderful workflow. I feel like we've been doing videos on our own end, and the process is pretty complex. We've had a lot of back and forth in our own videos, and I think this type of project tracking is really great. And I know that when we talked about it, you were like, I was trying to build this, I had this in ClickUp, but surfacing it to the client with ClickUp is challenging. So I'm really impressed with what you've built here. Okay, so going on to winner number 2. I really wish I had a drum roll. I don't really have that much hype music. I apologize. But this one is a little different. It's from Alton, who is an accountant, Shilbera Ledger Co., and who built a KPI dashboard. So a little bit about Shilbera. They're a remote bookkeeping company dedicated to helping small businesses, independent creators, and niche communities. I love that you guys work with the Renaissance Fair and festival vendors, and that love your branding as well. Provide monthly bookkeeping, credit card reconciliation, financial statement prep delivered through QuickBooks Online. You guys have tiered plans as well, which I think is great. I'm loving that everyone is building and showing off, their sort of scalable, how you describe it, the kind of productized scalable services. And I also love your tagline, bookkeeping for extraordinary biking. So a little bit of that about Alton. I'm going to show off your KPI dashboard. This was a demo app that you built. I'll talk through it a little bit, but it basically shows off all the different things that need attention. It's synced to QuickBooks Online, which is really impressive. So it kind of shows everything that QuickBooks would show in terms of like forecasting, expenses, and profit. But then it also shows off the everything in charts. I think that the demo was really great to see, because I really felt like you can kind of get all of this information. Like, yes, you can get it in QuickBooks, but now you have it in your portal and you can compare everything. So this was a really great example of a dashboard that was built from scratch. And I was really impressed. I think the team saw it and was like, wow, that's great. So not off of a template or anything like that, but really impressive work there. Okay, Congrats, Alton. I really appreciate you sharing. And so for the final winner, really, there have been a lot of people who have been building in the early access, but I do think if our team had to pick one person as like the standout who has been building quite a lot, that would be the following winner. So please give your hands for Garrett of Advert AI Marketing. Garrett has been one of the, I mean, like, well, the top builders in this early access period. So we've been giving free sort of like credits for everybody and just seeing how people react. And I think there have been a couple of standouts, and Garrett has been one of them who has been really building a lot. And this app that I'm about to show is not the only app he's built. In fact, I think is one of maybe 5 apps that he has built during the time. And it really, and what's really impressive about what Garrett has built is that it seems like you're using it in production and you're using it with your clients and it's already working. Like it's working to consolidate your tools. I think when we talked, you said you had like discontinued 5 tools in the process of consolidating. So this has been a really powerful use case for you. It's been replacing, you know, things that you've used like Google Forms, Google Drive, ClickUp. You've also built custom AI tools in there. So you've added AI into these apps, which is also something that I encourage people to try, is integrating with an LLM. And so without further ado, I'll give a little bit of a demo of Garrett's app. This is called a project hub, and it essentially is tracking everything that Garrett's team works on with their clients. And it's going from the onboarding stage into all of their workflows as an marketing agency, helping businesses and brands, you know, build and strengthen their digital presence. So Garrett's 11-person agency works directly with businesses and sometimes other agencies to provide this white label service. And so this app has like several tabs that you can see that go through their entire workflow and lifecycle. It includes logos and branding. It creates like generative color palettes. There's also, I think I'll show it in a second, sort of like a AI copywriter that helps kind of like transcript and do a lot of the process that they would normally do by hand. And then you can also basically start a workflow where you start a project and it like launches and syncs with the ClickUp. And what I'm showing now is the client experience. So this is how the client sees it. So the internal team has all of those tabs, but the client gets this sort of nice step-by-step process where you can see exactly what's going on. They can add information and that gets sent back to the team, which is super impressive. They can add content and leave comments, and they can also upload different files and formats. So I was like, when I looked at this, I was like, wow, this is really impressive. You know, you can basically have consolidated all of your tools into one giant app, and that it, you know, it calls external tools, it has its own LLM built in. And, you know, I know you've spent a lot of time working on this, but the fact that you were able to iterate in just a few weeks is so impressive. So big hand and congrats to Garrett for this. I hope that what, you know, everyone sees is just a range of possibilities. Like, yes, you can do a lot of simple things. You can adapt the things that we have, but you also can go pretty deep. So I'm really, really, really excited to have that, have all these people building, and excited for everyone else to get access soon enough. This last bit, I'm going to take a second to check the chat for all of the people who've commented so far. And I'm going to do the last and final bit of my promised time, which is raffle some winners. So you have a little bit of time to comment and chat before I run this into ChatGPT. And in the meantime, I'm also going to bring Marlon back on if he's still available. Say hi and talk to folks in the chat. Here you go. Hello, Marlon. How's it going?
Hey.
Well, I am currently waiting for folks to finalize their comments and raffle off the prizes. I'm going to show off the prizes in a second, but if you have any last comments or notes that you want to give people about this launch, any asks, we do have a launch party that's happening in New York tomorrow. I believe there's a lot of people RSVP'd. Just a shout out for that. Great. 1 second. All right. So we've got some assembly merch here that we are rolling off, and I'm just going to have our names pull at random. Let's go. I'm going to put, let's see how it goes. This is the last, but sort of most fly by the seat of our pants moment. And our first winner is Tiffy Creative. Thanks, Tiffy. I saw you shout out your name. Congrats. I will put on. That is yours. And then the next winner here is Reba Ball. I think I know who this is. I think this is a congrats here. Thank you so much for joining us. And the final winner, I'm going to pull up the name, is, I will freeze, Stephen. Thank you, Stephen. Also, great question, Stephen. Thank you so much. I really appreciate everyone's joining. I will follow up with you all in the chat. If you have any questions about how to get your swag, email me at marketing@assembly.com. And there, let's see. And I think the last thing that I'm going to ask, and last thing I'm going to show off, is the fact that we have some apps for you. I'm going to say everyone should follow Marlon on Twitter and LinkedIn. Tomorrow or on Wednesday, we're going to be posting some things that we'd love your support on, especially if you've been building apps or you've been working on things in assembly, showing off what you've done. I think that message from people who've actually used this is really powerful. Marlon, do you have any other additional requests, feedback, comments?
No other requests or feedback, but thank you all so much for joining. This feature and product has been a ton of fun to build. And I think this is the first time assembly has sort of become a creative tool where you can kind of really build the things in your imagination, and you're not constrained to just what we present to you. So we're stoked to get this out. If you've been with us on all plans, we have generous build credits. So don't be shy. Let us know what you're building. We've got a Slack community. We've got a Discord community, or discourse, I should say. And let us know how to make this better too. This is a project that's not been in the works for very long. We know it's secure, but there's a lot more we want to build. We want to make it faster. So please, everybody, tell us how we can take it to the next level, and we'll do our best to make that happen.
Great. Thank you, everyone. And for those of you watching, this will be cut up and you'll see this sent to you directly. So appreciate you taking the time. And check us out on Wednesday. All right.